Hello everyone. My name is Ethan Blackwood. As a financial analyst in a prestigious firm in downtown Chicago, my life seemed perfect. I had a loving wife, Sarah, two beautiful daughters, Lily and Emma, and a comfortable suburban home. I firmly believed in the sanctity of marriage, inspired by the unwavering bond my parents shared. Sarah and I met in college, and our differences seemed to complement each other perfectly. We married young, full of dreams and ambitions, certain that our love would conquer all. Yet, life had other plans. One fateful evening, while Sarah was in the shower, I noticed her phone buzzing with notifications. Out of sheer curiosity, I glanced at the screen and saw messages from someone named Alex. My heart pounded as I read the flirtatious texts, each word confirming my worst fears. My world shattered as I realized she was having an affair. The betrayal cut deep, leaving me questioning everything I believed in. When Sarah emerged from the bathroom, I confronted her, hoping for remorse, a half-felt apology, something to hold on to. But instead, she met my anguish with cold indifference. "It's my body, my choice," she said, her eyes defiant. Her justification felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The woman I thought I knew, the mother of my children, was unapologetically unfaithful. Our once vibrant home now felt suffocating, each room echoing with the ghost of our past happiness. The laughter of my daughters, which used to be a source of joy, now served as a painful reminder of the facade our life had become. I found myself at a crossroads, torn between my commitment to our family and the bitter taste of betrayal. As I grappled with this new reality, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in our home became palpable. Sarah continued her affair, brazenly leaving for dates, while I cared for our daughters. I felt like a stranger in my own life, watching helplessly as my marriage crumbled around me. Seeking advice, I consulted a lawyer who introduced me to the harsh reality of divorce laws. To my shock, I learned that despite Sarah's infidelity, I could lose custody of my children and half of our assets. The injustice of it all fueled a fire within me. Determined to protect myself and my daughters, I began meticulously documenting Sarah's absences and neglect. I threw myself into being the best father I could be, cherishing every moment with Lily and Emma. Their innocent smiles became my anchor in the storm. One night, after tucking the girls in, Sarah attempted to seduce me, thinking she could manipulate me back into the bed. The audacity of her actions ignited a rage I didn't know I possessed. In that moment, I knew I had to fight, not just for myself, but for my daughter's future. Navigating the treacherous waters of my crumbling marriage, I found solace in an unexpected place. During a company event, I met Olivia, a vibrant marketing executive whose genuine warmth and intelligence captivated me. At first, I resisted any connection, still bound by my marital vows despite Sarah's betrayal. However, Olivia's friendship became a lifeline. She listened without judgment, offering support and perspective. Slowly, I rediscovered parts of myself I had long forgotten, my passions, my dreams, my worth. One evening, as we shared coffee after a late meeting, Olivia's hand brushed mine. The electricity of that simple touch awakened feelings I thought were long dead. Guilt and desire warred within me, but I couldn't deny the connection we shared. As I drove home that night, my mind raced. Could I allow myself happiness? Did I deserve it? The answers eluded me, but for the first time in months, hope flickered in my heart. I realized that to be a good father, I needed to be true to myself first. Months of tension culminated in an explosive confrontation. Sarah, realizing her manipulations were failing, lashed out in desperation. "You can't divorce me," she screamed, her face contorted with rage. "I'll take the girls, the house, everything." Her threats ignited a calm determination within me. "No, Sarah," I replied, my voice steady. "You've already taken enough." I presented her with the divorce papers, detailing my demands for full custody and fair asset division. Sarah's face paled as she realized the extent of my preparation. Her composure cracked, revealing the selfish woman beneath the facade of a devoted wife and mother. "You can't do this to me," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, I felt no joy, only a profound sadness for what could have been. "I'm not doing this to you, Sarah," I said softly. "You did this to us." As I walked away, leaving her clutching the papers, I felt the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. The battle was far from over, but I was ready to fight for my future and my daughter's happiness. The divorce proceedings were grueling, but with the evidence I had gathered and Olivia's unwavering support, I emerged victorious. I was awarded full custody of Lily and Emma, our family home, and a fair division of assets. Sarah, her affair with Alex now in tatters, moved out, becoming a weekend parent at best. As I stood in our backyard, watching Lily and Emma play with Olivia and her daughter Mia, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. Olivia caught my eye, her smile radiant, and I knew that this was where I belonged. "Daddy, can Olivia and Mia move in with us?" Emma asked innocently, her eyes wide with hope. I glanced at Olivia, seeing my own desire reflected in her eyes. "What do you think?" I asked her softly. Olivia's response was to pull me into a tender kiss, much to the girl's delight and giggles. As we broke apart, breathless and smiling, I knew that this was not an ending, but a beautiful new beginning. The road ahead might have its challenges, but with love, honesty, and courage, we were ready to face them together. Sarah's affair was no longer a secret she attempted to hide. Instead, it was a reality she flaunted with brazen disregard. Every time she left for one of her dates, a piece of our already fragile relationship shattered further. I was left at home, playing the role of both father and mother, while the woman I once loved drifted further away. The evenings were the hardest. After tucking Lily and Emma into bed, I would sit in the living room, the silence of the house pressing down on me like a heavy weight. I often found myself staring at family photos, the smiling faces mocking the present turmoil. The laughter and joy that once filled our home seemed like a distant memory, replaced by an oppressive sense of betrayal and loss. One particularly cold night, Sarah returned home late, her eyes gleaming with defiance. "Don't wait up for me," she said with a smirk, as she grabbed her purse and headed towards the door again. The door closed behind her with a finality that echoed through the house. I stood there, feeling like a stranger in my own life, helpless as my marriage crumbled around me. Desperate for advice and a sense of direction, I consulted a lawyer. Sitting in the sterile office, the reality of my situation became painfully clear. Despite Sarah's infidelity, the law didn't favor my side. I could lose custody of my daughters, and half of our assets could go to Sarah. The injustice of it all fueled a fire within me, a burning desire to protect what mattered most. I began documenting everything. Every time Sarah left, every instance of neglect, I noted it down meticulously. I took pictures, saved messages, and kept a detailed journal. I knew I needed solid evidence to stand a chance in court. I threw myself into being the best father I could be, spending every free moment with Lily and Emma. Their innocent smiles and laughter became my anchor in the storm, a reminder of what I was fighting for. One night, as I was preparing dinner, Sarah returned home unexpectedly early. She sauntered into the kitchen, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "Ethan," she purred, "why don't we put all this behind us?" She moved closer, her intentions clear. The audacity of her actions ignited a rage within me that I didn't know I possessed. "No, Sarah," I said, stepping back. "You've already taken enough." Her face twisted with anger. "You can't divorce me," she spat. "I'll take the girls, the house, everything." Her threats only solidified my resolve. "No, Sarah," I replied, my voice steady. "This ends now." As the days passed, I found solace in an unexpected place. During a company event, I met Olivia, a vibrant marketing executive whose genuine warmth and intelligence captivated me. At first, I resisted any connection, still bound by my marital vows despite Sarah's betrayal. However, Olivia's friendship became a lifeline. She listened without judgment, offering support and perspective. Slowly, I rediscovered parts of myself I had long forgotten: my passions, my dreams, my worth. One evening, after a late meeting, Olivia and I found ourselves at a nearby cafe, sharing a quiet moment. Her hand brushed mine, and a spark ignited between us. Guilt and desire warred within me, but I couldn't deny the connection we shared. As I drove home that night, my mind raced. Could I allow myself happiness? Did I deserve it? The answers eluded me, but for the first time in months, hope flickered in my heart. I realized that to be a good father, I needed to be true to myself first. The climax came on a stormy night. Sarah, realizing her manipulations were failing, lashed out in desperation. "You can't divorce me," she screamed, her face contorted with rage. "I'll take the girls, the house, everything." Her threats ignited a calm determination within me. "No, Sarah," I replied, my voice steady. "You've already taken enough." I presented her with the divorce papers, detailing my demands for full custody and fair asset division. Sarah's face paled as she realized the extent of my preparation. Her composure cracked, revealing the selfish woman beneath the facade of a devoted wife and mother. "You can't do this to me," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, I felt no joy, only a profound sadness for what could have been. "I'm not doing this to you, Sarah," I said softly. "You did this to us." As I walked away, leaving her clutching the papers, I felt the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. The battle was far from over, but I was ready to fight for my future and my daughter's happiness. The divorce proceedings were grueling. Each court date felt like a battlefield, with Sarah and her lawyer throwing every accusation they could at me. But with the evidence I had gathered and Olivia's unwavering support, I emerged victorious. I was awarded full custody of Lily and Emma, our family home, and a fair division of assets. Sarah, her affair with Alex now in tatters, moved out, becoming a weekend parent at best. As I stood in our backyard, watching Lily and Emma play with Olivia and her daughter Mia, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. Olivia caught my eye, her smile radiant, and I knew that this was where I belonged. "Daddy, can Olivia and Mia move in with us?" Emma asked innocently, her eyes wide with hope. I glanced at Olivia, seeing my own desire reflected in her eyes. "What do you think?" I asked her softly. Olivia's response was to pull me into a tender kiss, much to the girls' delight and giggles. My mornings were filled with the laughter of my daughters, Lily and Emma, as we navigated the chaos of breakfast and school runs. Evenings were a whirlwind of homework, playtime, and bedtime stories. It was exhausting, but it was also a routine that brought stability and comfort to our fractured lives. Amidst this new rhythm, Olivia became an increasingly important presence. Our relationship had grown from tentative friendship to something deeper, though we moved forward with caution. We were both aware of the complexities that came with blending families and healing from past wounds. One sunny Saturday, Olivia invited me to her daughter's soccer game. Mia was a lively, spirited child, and I watched as she ran across the field, her enthusiasm infectious. Olivia stood beside me, her eyes shining with pride. "She's amazing, isn't she?" she said, her voice filled with warmth. "She really is," I replied, feeling a genuine smile spread across my face. As I watched Mia play, I felt a growing sense of connection, not just to Olivia, but to her daughter as well. It was a reminder of the possibilities that lay ahead, a glimpse of a future filled with hope and new beginnings. Despite these moments of happiness, there were still challenges to face. Sarah's occasional visits to see Lily and Emma were fraught with tension. She would often arrive late, her demeanor brittle and defensive. The girls sensed the strain, their smiles fading whenever she was around. One evening, After a particularly difficult visit, Lily crawled into my lap, her small body trembling with suppressed tears. "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy love us anymore?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The question pierced my heart. I held her close, searching for the right words. "Mommy loves you very much," I said softly. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and they need time to figure things out. But no matter what happens, you and Emma will always be loved, okay?" Lily nodded, her tears soaking into my shirt. In that moment, I realized how much my daughters needed reassurance and stability. They were caught in the crossfire of adult conflicts, and it was my responsibility to shield them as best as I could. As our lives continued to intertwine with Olivia and Mia's, we found ourselves spending more time together. Family outings to the park, movie nights, and shared meals became the norm. The girls bonded over shared interests, their laughter filling the house with a sense of unity that had been missing for so long. One evening, as Olivia and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset, she turned to me, her expression thoughtful. "Ethan, I've been thinking. Maybe it's time we talked about the future, about us." Her words hung in the air, laden with possibility. I looked at her, taking in the vulnerability in her eyes. "I think you're right," I said slowly. "We've come a long way, and I don't want to rush things, but I do see a future with you, Olivia. With you and Mia." A smile spread across her face, and she reached out to take my hand. "I feel the same way. But I also know we need to be careful, for the girls' sake. They've been through so much already." "I know," I agreed. "We'll take it one step at a time. But I'm ready to start building that future together." As our relationship deepened, so did my introspection. I often found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. The betrayal and heartbreak had been devastating, but they had also forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about myself and my life. I had been complacent, too willing to ignore the cracks in my marriage until they became chasms. One evening, after tucking the girls into bed, I sat alone in the living room, my thoughts swirling. The silence of the house pressed in on me, and I found myself reaching for the phone to call my best friend Mark. We had known each other since college, and he had been a constant source of support throughout the ordeal. "Hey Ethan," Mark answered, his voice warm and familiar. "How are things going?" "Better," I replied, leaning back in my chair. "But it's still a lot to process. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm making the right choices for the girls." Mark was silent for a moment, considering his words. "Ethan, from what I've seen, you're doing an amazing job. You're there for Lily and Emma. You're giving them stability and love. And you found someone who makes you happy. That's not something to take lightly." "I know," I said, sighing. "It's just, I never imagined my life would turn out this way. I thought Sarah and I would grow old together, that we'd be a family forever." "Life rarely goes the way we plan," Mark said gently. "But that doesn't mean it can't be good. Sometimes, the detours lead us to places we never knew we needed to be." As I hung up the phone, Mark's words lingered in my mind. Life had indeed taken an unexpected turn, but it was a turn that had led me to Olivia, to a renewed sense of purpose and hope. The pain of the past was still there, but it was no longer the defining feature of my life. One day, while sorting through old boxes in the attic, I came across a photo album from the early days of my marriage to Sarah. The images were a stark contrast to our present reality, filled with smiles and moments of joy. As I flipped through the pages, a wave of sadness washed over me. But intertwined with that sadness was a sense of acceptance. Those memories were part of my story, but they didn't define my future. As the weeks turned into months, the bond between our two families grew stronger. We faced challenges, of course. Blending families was no easy task, and there were moments of friction and misunderstanding. But there were also moments of profound connection and love. One evening, as we all sat around the dinner table, Mia looked up from her plate, her eyes bright. "This feels like a real family," she said, her voice filled with wonder. Olivia and I exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between us. That's because it is, I said, my heart swelling with gratitude. We're building something special here, something real. As I lay in bed that night, with Olivia beside me, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. The road ahead would undoubtedly have its challenges, but I was no longer afraid. I had found my strength, my purpose, and a love that was built on honesty and mutual respect. The tension in our home was reaching unbearable levels. Sarah had taken to flaunting her affair with Alex more brazenly, coming and going as she pleased, while I stayed behind, picking up the pieces of our shattered life. Each of her absences felt like a fresh wound, but I couldn't let the pain consume me. My daughters needed me, and I was determined to be their rock amidst the chaos. The turning point came on a particularly cold and rainy evening. Sarah had left for another one of her so-called dates, and I was alone with Lily and Emma. We huddled together on the couch, watching a movie, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was not the life I had envisioned for my children. After putting the girls to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. I needed guidance, someone to tell me that I wasn't losing my mind. I called my lawyer, Linda, a no-nonsense woman who had been a steady presence throughout this ordeal. Linda, I don't know how much more of this I can take, I confessed, my voice heavy with exhaustion. You're stronger than you think, Ethan, she replied. But you need to start documenting everything. Sarah's absences, the neglect of the children, everything. This will be crucial if you decide to pursue full custody. Her advice gave me a renewed sense of purpose. I began meticulously recording every instance of Sarah's neglect. Each time she left for hours without explanation, each time she missed an important event in the girls' lives, I noted it down. It felt cold and calculating, but I knew it was necessary. I was fighting not just for my sanity, but for my daughter's future. Weeks turned into months, and the tension between Sarah and me escalated. She seemed to sense that her control over me was slipping, and she grew more desperate in her attempts to assert dominance. One night, she returned home late, clearly intoxicated. She stumbled through the door, her eyes flashing with anger. "Why are you still up?" she slurred, glaring at me. "I was waiting for you," I replied evenly. "We need to talk." She laughed bitterly. "Talk? About what? How you're trying to turn the girls against me?" "I'm trying to protect them," I shot back. "From you and your selfishness." Her face twisted with rage. "You think you can take them from me? You're delusional." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I've been documenting everything, Sarah. Every time you leave, every time you neglect them. I have evidence, and I'm not afraid to use it." Her eyes widened with a mix of fear and fury. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me," I said quietly. "I won't let you destroy our family any further." The confrontation left me shaken, but it also solidified my resolve. I knew I was doing the right thing, even if it meant facing Sarah's wrath. I couldn't let her manipulations and neglect continue to harm our daughters. During this tumultuous period, my friendship with Olivia deepened. She became a confidant, someone I could trust with my darkest thoughts and fears. We often met for coffee after work, finding solace in each other's company. One evening, as we sat in a quiet corner of a cozy cafe, Olivia reached across the table and took my hand. "Ethan, I can see how much this is hurting you," she said gently. "But you're doing the right thing. You're fighting for your daughters." Her words were a balm to my wounded soul. I squeezed her hand, grateful for her unwavering support. "Thank you, Olivia. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You don't have to do this alone," she replied. "I'm here for you, no matter what." As our hands lingered, I felt a spark of something more. It was a feeling I had tried to suppress, bound by the remnants of my marital vows. But with Olivia, everything felt different. Genuine. Honest. One night, after another late meeting, Olivia and I shared a quiet moment outside the office. The city lights cast a soft glow on her face, and I found myself drawn to her warmth. As we talked about our hopes and dreams, her hand brushed mine. The simple touch sent a jolt of electricity through me, awakening feelings I thought had long died. "Olivia," I began, my voice hesitant. "I don't know where this is going, but I can't deny how I feel." She looked at me, her eyes filled with understanding. "Ethan, we don't have to rush anything. Let's take it one step at a time." Her words were a lifeline, a promise of a future that was slowly coming into focus. As I drove home that night, my mind raced with possibilities. Could I allow myself to be happy again? Did I deserve it after everything that had happened? The answers eluded me, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Hope that there could be a future where my daughters were safe and loved, and where I could find happiness again. As the weeks passed, I continued to navigate the treacherous waters of my crumbling marriage. Sarah's behavior grew more erratic, and the tension in our home was palpable. But amidst the chaos, there were moments of clarity and strength. I found solace in my daughter's smiles, in Olivia's unwavering support, and in the quiet moments of reflection that allowed me to see the path ahead. One evening, as I tucked Lily and Emma into bed, Sarah attempted to seduce me. She thought she could manipulate me back into her bed, using our shared history as leverage. But the audacity of her actions only fueled my resolve. I looked at her, feeling a surge of anger and determination. "No, Sarah," I said firmly. "You can't use me anymore. It's over." Her face contorted with rage, but I stood my ground. I had finally found my voice, and I wasn't going to let her silence it again. The following days were a blur of legal battles and emotional confrontations. Sarah's threats grew more desperate, but I remained steadfast. I was fighting not just for myself, but for my daughter's future. And with Olivia by my side, I knew I had the strength to see it through. As the storm raged on, I found moments of peace and clarity. I realized that to be a good father, I needed to be true to myself first. I needed to let go of the past and embrace the possibilities of the future. One evening, as I sat on the porch, watching the sunset, Olivia joined me. We sat in comfortable silence, the weight of the past few months hanging between us. "Ethan," she said softly, breaking the silence. "Whatever happens, just know that I'm here for you. We'll get through this together." Her words were a promise, a beacon of hope in the darkness. As I looked into her eyes, I knew that this was where I belonged. The road ahead would be challenging, but with love, honesty, and courage, we were ready to face it together. The divorce proceedings were every bit as grueling as I had anticipated. Sarah's lawyer was aggressive, attempting to paint her as the victim and me as the controlling husband. But I had come prepared, armed with documentation and the steadfast support of Linda. Each court session felt like a battle, and though I emerged exhausted, I also felt a growing sense of empowerment. This was my fight for justice, for my daughter's future, and I would not back down. Sarah sat across from me, her demeanor oscillating between defiant and vulnerable. There were moments when I almost felt sorry for her, but then I would remember the cold, calculated way she had torn our family apart. Her betrayal had cut deep, but it had also awakened a resilience within me I hadn't known I possessed. One afternoon, after a particularly heated session in court, Linda pulled me aside. "Ethan, we're making good progress. But be prepared. Sarah's going to push back harder now. She knows she's losing ground." I nodded, the weight of her words settling over me. "I'm ready for whatever she throws at us. I just want this to be over." Later that evening, as I sat at home, Olivia called. Her voice was a soothing balm to my frayed nerves. "How are you holding up?" she asked, concern evident in her tone. "It's tough, but I'm managing," I replied. "Thank you for being there for me. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You don't have to thank me, Ethan. I care about you, and I'm here for you no matter what. Just remember, this won't last forever. There's a light at the end of the tunnel." Her words gave me hope. We talked late into the night, and for a while, the burden of my reality felt lighter. The final court date arrived, and the atmosphere was charged with tension. As the judge reviewed the evidence, I could see the cracks in Sarah's facade. She was no longer the confident, manipulative woman she had been months ago. The reality of her actions was catching up with her. When the judge finally ruled in my favor, awarding me full custody of Lily and Emma, and a fair division of assets, a wave of relief washed over me. Sarah looked stricken, her eyes filled with a mix of disbelief and rage. For a moment, I'd almost pitied her. Almost. After the hearing, as I was gathering my things, Sarah approached me. "You think you've won, don't you?" She spat, her voice low and venomous. "This was never about winning, Sarah. It was about doing what's right for our daughters." She scoffed, tears brimming in her eyes. "You'll regret this, Ethan. Mark my words." I watched her walk away, feeling a pang of sorrow for the life we had once envisioned together. But I knew that this was the only way forward. The battle was over, and it was time to heal. Back at home, the atmosphere was markedly different. The house, once suffused with tension, now felt like a sanctuary. Lily and Emma were adjusting well, their laughter filling the rooms with a joy I hadn't heard in a long time. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Emma looked at me with her wide, innocent eyes. "Daddy, can Olivia and Mia come over for dinner tomorrow?" I glanced at Olivia, who had become a regular presence in our lives, and smiled. "What do you think, Olivia?" "I'd love to," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "We'd love to." As the weeks passed, Olivia and Mia became an integral part of our family. Olivia's warmth and kindness were a balm to all of us, and her daughter Mia fit in seamlessly with Lily and Emma. We spent weekends together, exploring parks, cooking meals, and building new traditions. One sunny Saturday afternoon, we were all in the backyard, the girls playing a game of tag while Olivia and I watched from the porch. I turned to her, feeling a surge of gratitude and affection. "Olivia, I don't know how to thank you for everything. You've been my rock through all of this." She took my hand, her touch sending a familiar jolt of warmth through me. "Ethan, you don't have to thank me. We're in this together. You and the girls are my family now." Her words resonated deeply within me. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I allowed myself to imagine a future filled with hope and love. One evening, after the girls had gone to bed, Olivia and I sat on the porch, the stars twinkling above us. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and the world seemed to have finally settled into a peaceful rhythm. "Ethan," Olivia began, her voice soft, "I've been thinking about us, about the future." I turned to her, my heart pounding. "What about it?" She smiled, a mixture of hope and uncertainty in her eyes. "I love you, and I love the girls. I want to build a life with you, if you'll have me." Her words hung in the air, filled with promise and possibility. I took her hands in mine, feeling a swell of emotion. "Olivia, I love you too. I want nothing more than to build a future with you and Mia. We've all been through so much, but I believe we can find happiness together." Our kiss was tender, filled with the promise of new beginnings. As we pulled away, breathless and smiling, I knew that this was the start of something beautiful. The road ahead might have its challenges, but with love, honesty, and courage, we were ready to face them together. In the days that followed, Olivia and Mia moved in with us. The house, once filled with tension and sorrow, was now a place of laughter and love. We became a family, not bound by blood, but by the strength of our bond and the resilience of our spirits. One evening, as we all sat around the dinner table, Lily looked at me with a thoughtful expression. "Daddy, do you think Mommy will ever come back?" I met her gaze, feeling a pang of sadness. "I don't know, sweetheart. But what I do know is that we have each other, and that's what matters most." Olivia reached out, taking my hand. "We're a family, and will always be here for you, no matter what." Lily smiled, her eyes shining with a wisdom beyond her years. "I like that. I like our family." As we sat there, surrounded by love and laughter, I realized that this was the true victory. Not the legal battles or the court rulings, but the creation of a new, stronger family. A family built on love, trust, and the promise of a brighter future.